What is up, everybody? This is Mel Farah here with BearishBulls once again, and today I am going to be discussing not just Delta Airlines, but all of the airlines in general as a sector using the JETS ETF, which has UAL, AAL, United Airlines, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, JetBlue, etc. And the reason why I'm going to be discussing this is because I will be going over oil as well as the airlines, and I'll tell you how they correlate. So, as you can see here with Delta Airlines, what I'm going to initially be doing is setting a Fibonacci retracement point right at the lows here and then track it all the way to the top right here. Now, and then I'm going to stretch it out. This is what I always do when looking at, stocks just in general. As you can see, we have a big gap right around here. If we look at the visible range, you can kind of notice, now give me a second here, the visible range, which is a very good indicator right here. You can see that there is a pretty big gap. So a break above this level, we gap up here. This basically shows like places where buying and selling essentially occurs. Now, if Delta Airlines can finish above 30 points, let's say 30.8, it would be a bullish indicator for the day considering it's down 2.3%. And another thing that I'm also noticing is and also actually before I go on, if we finish above 30.8, we could gap up to 32.34. As you can see, when we break a fib level, we do tend to go to a next one. But again, it's just a prediction. It's just a guidance method with fib alligator method. And if you notice here, we are seeing a potential golden cross. It's when the 50-day moving average, which is this green line, crosses and goes higher, goes above the 200-day moving average, which tends to be a bullish outlook for the market, or excuse me, for the stock. If we look at JETS ETF, we're seeing another potential golden cross, and this is on the daily. The daily is the best form to look at. And amongst that, too, looking at this visible range, you can see that there is a massive, massive resistance right here at 18. And if we draw a Fibonacci retracement thing using the alligator method from this high to this day, looking at the past three-ish months, you can see that there is in fact a major resistance right here at 18 and a potential push above this 18 level to possibly 18.6 and around this mid fib level of 19 we could see that golden cross occurring, and once that golden cross occurs, essentially all the airlines will then get pumped. And this is also on news of potential stimulus. The airlines have been rocked pretty hard due to the COVID crisis. So they have a lot to gain from a basic stimulus package. I can't see the presidential candidates saying anything bad about them, saying stuff like, oh, we're not going to give them stimulus. That doesn't really make sense. Um, so I am favoring a pretty bullish run. It's a good day to get into them as well, or even a good week, as we have sold off nearly 3% today at one point. So it has been pretty hard. And how this correlates with oil, if that's what you're wondering, I'll show you. So if we look at WTI crude, and if we just actually, we can put them together right here and here, WTI, right here, WTI crude, we can see that they are almost essentially the same. When they get pumped, as we saw here, WTI also gets pumped. When they kind of sell off here, you can kind of see a small sell off. There was some sort of divergence that occurred, but this recent sell off that happened was due to oil news and obviously the September lows. This was basically a rotation into the market, which is why we're seeing the airlines get pumped and why they fell so hard. It's because there was a divergence between oil and the airlines. Now, due to the COVID, it's very difficult to try to find these divergences because all the price action movements are pretty far off. But, for the most part, as oil goes up, the airlines tend to go up too. And I think if we look at jets in general, it might be a better look into them. As you can see here, and then we sell off. So this is actually a lagging indicator of oil. When oil sells off, the airlines tend to sell off as well. And obviously today there was a big news on oil about how I think countries in Turkey and around the Middle Eastern region were discussing how they're they may not be able to meet the demand that's currently occurring. Now, with oil too, we have had a pretty big shock as well, down nearly 5%. I don't think there's anything to really fear as we jumped and dipped from this 100-day moving average fairly well. And if you also look at oil too, the 200-day, a golden cross occurred right around here. You can see the 50-day moving average went above the 200-day moving average. And usually when a golden cross occurs, a lot of things can happen. But what it looks like is happening is that it might be correcting itself. This golden cross happened where the 200-day moving average went lower than the 50-day moving average, which tends to be a very, very bullish thing. As you can see here, it's bearish when the 200-day moves above the 50-day. As you can see here, it happened right here, which was pretty early, and then we really sold off all the way down. But now the 50-day has crossed back over the 200. Now what can happen is it can cross back down, and then we will really sell off if that happens. But if we just take this current month, use the Fibonacci type of sequence thing, stretch this thing out. Oops, let me. The Fibonacci alligator method. Stretch this thing out. We can kind of see. Oops, we can kind of see that we've dipped right below here to this mid-fib level, the middle points between these two. We literally touched it right away, which just, tells you how the mid-fib levels basically work. We touched it, and now we're already back at the 0.618 fib level. We're literally touching it right now. So in order for us to kind of go higher with oil and to go higher with the airlines, oil is going to have to lead. And the airlines tend to be a lagging sector in terms of oil. As oil prices become more reasonable and stable, airlines tend to become better because a lot of their um, supply chain comes from oil in order to meet up with demand and things of that matter. And basically, more people flying, the more oil and gas you're going to end up needing, which then pushes the market for airlines higher. So essentially, they are both kind of intermingling together in a way. So, and we're not really getting into electric airlines yet. I mean, maybe in the future, but for now, oil is very dependent, or excuse me, airlines are very dependent on oil. As you can see, they are a bit lagging, and you can kind of see the indication here. Now, if we can, we've dipped kind of, we've touched this resistance level, and it looks like there is another big resistance level here. Excuse me, we touched this support level, and the next resistance level, it's a pretty wide gap, as you can see here with the visible range, could go up higher to this point. And essentially, what I'm seeing is this golden cross forming. Usually, there is a pretty slow sell off that happens, but this is just off news. And any good news or just any basic technicals will push this higher. The MACD still hasn't crossed the zero line, and if that does happen, oil could potentially see the next resistance point, which is around, I'm going to say $44, just to give it like right around here. And if that happens, airlines are also going to pump, and they could potentially see, um, if you were to look right here, I'm not saying it's C22, but it could possibly see 21, maybe 20 even. And if we look at Delta Airlines in specific, with the potential golden cross happening, also with jets, we could very much see 35 up to 37 in that regards. So stay on a lookout for oil and the airline sector. They have been beat pretty hard, but with stimulus news and a lot of backing for oil and how dependent airlines are on oil, they will kind of follow each other in a way. Airlines are a bit of a lagging sector, as I showed you before, but with a golden cross that happened on oil, if that can hold, the airlines will for sure go higher over time. And with this dip that's currently happening, it's basically on news. You want to be pretty greedy on days where people are fearful of big demand shocks. But with states reopening in America and the United States, um, hopefully coronavirus cases don't go out of control. But I think investors are kind of more aware or more fearful of the presidential election more so. And any talks of them stating stuff about how they're going to fix the economy, add more stimulus, that's just going to push oil higher and also going to help the airlines move higher as well. So just take a look up on that. If you guys want to, just for confirmation methods, I am long on Delta Airlines, but when I say long, I usually have a price target. I can see Delta Airlines hitting maybe 32.3 is my next target estimate, which is good for calls. I mean, the Delta on Delta Airlines, so to speak, it's really, really good. You'll get a good return on options, especially if you play calls. Now, we are in a critical point right here, and that's why I wanted to discuss oil and how airlines kind of intermingle with each other because this is a big, big point for Delta Airlines in specific and also the oil market. And if we fall below 30.75 on another day, we could fall to 29.2. There is strong support at 30 right here, which is like another support level. But if we can stay strong above it, we could gap up to 32.3, potentially 33.3, which is a mid-fib level here, and then so on and so forth. And then once again, looking at oil, oh, this is the wrong one. Looking at oil and this market with this golden cross that's happened. If news gets better and if it holds that $39 level, we can very much go higher. However, if this does not hold, you can kind of see that there is a very, very big gap to fill below. If this doesn't hold, we can fall to 37.5, potentially this mid-fib level of 38. And then if this doesn't hold, we can fall to 35.7, which then could push the airlines lower potentially. So just be careful. And when I say airlines too, I know a lot of people like to trade BA. It's the same thing here. Boeing has been consolidating a lot to the downside, but again, with a potential golden cross that it can occur, you can kind of see we still need some momentum with the MACD pushing forward. A big move is going to happen. And the faster stimulus gets passed, the higher the airlines are going to go. And yeah, that is basically all I have today. I know it was a pretty long video, but I wanted to go over the airline sector and how it related with oil. Oops, excuse that. We're about to watch the presidential debate tonight, and I'm trying to get a bunch of friends to come. It's going to be a good time. And I also recommend all of you guys do the same because it's going to really impact the markets. So I'm going to leave before I get any more text messages. But regardless of that, thank you so much for watching my video on the airline sector and how it correlates with oil. It's going to be really big. Let's see what happens. Watch the golden cross on oil. Watch the potential golden cross on the airlines. Listen to the stimulus talks. And wait for the confirmations on the fib levels. All right, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe and like this video so that we can keep bringing out great content like this. Like basically all that. Join our Discord on BearishBulls. And like I said, subscribe and like our video. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.